These are Lego 2x4 hinge plates. These were introduced in 1967 and in use through 2003 in sets. Several different versions of this hinge plate over the years, and went through some mold variations, and you can roughly date the part based on these variations. The first hinge plates were only in red. It started in 1967 and 1968. Something to note about these is that they had black pins and they had no hole in either plate. In 1969, the light gray color was added and a small hole was put in each of the plates that you could run a string through. These were often used in crane models, and you could run a string with a hook on the end and add some functionality to your model. Still had black pins in the early 70s. Then around 1975, you started to see the red pins. Black ones were still being used, and in fact black pins were still in this hinge up through at least 1978, which is when the black hinge plate was introduced, and you will find these with black or red pins in them. So for that period of time between 1975 and around 1978, you may find red or black pins in the plates. This one has a red one. But around 1980, another change was made. The hole was moved and was enlarged. So this has a small hole version and a large hole version and a no hole version. Those are the main versions. Interestingly, when Lego first started to make these large hole versions, they just modified the mold of the old version on the lower plate. So you can see it still has that small hole in it, even though the large one has been added. And you will also see that the pat pen mark is obscured on these, indicating that this is an old mold, had been in use for at least 5-6 years, and was just modified for this new version. The upper plate is a new mold. Finally, in the later versions, there is a new mold on the bottom. Although here again you can see this has the pat pen obscured, but they have blocked the small hole. Red pin. Now I've never found a large hole hinge with a black pin. Doesn't mean they don't exist, and if anybody finds one, I'd like to know where you found it and what set it was from, if you do know. But in general, 67 and 68, no hole. The small hole is from 1969 through about 1980. The black pin from 1967 up through 1978. The red pin was introduced around 1975 and up through 2003. So there is a period of about 3 years, 75 to 78, where you might find a red or a black pin. That's the basics on the 2x4 hinge plate.